One time I called into work, said I was running behind, had some complications with my vehicle, and that I'd still be coming in, but it would just be a little later. And I didn't. I ended up staying on that part of town I was at with my friend and just kind of taking the day off and enjoying it with him there. And this was during my last 2 weeks at this place, this location. This is when I was working on wind turbines. Um, but I show up the next day, and the manager there was like, "Hey, what happened? Blah blah blah. You didn't show up." And he goes, Jason, I wouldn't have wished that on my worst enemy." And I just thought, and I totally believed this guy. This person was, I don't know if I can get into this. I mean, he was old school sexist. I don't know if he was racist or not, but I mean, he was always right. He was never wrong. If you ever caught him being wrong at work, he would never admit to being wrong about anything. And he was just a very difficult person to work with. And but the idea that I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy is that the fact that I inconvenienced him for 4.5 hours, and he wasn't even alone. There was still other people there, and wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy. God, I mean, I want my enemies to bury their children. You know what I mean? I want my worst enemy. I want his child to survive, but just have enough brain damage to where he's got to it's going to cripple his whole life taking care of his child, who's now not full on vegetable. I want him to still maybe be able to croak out on a distorted "I love you" or something. That's the kind of stuff I wish on my worst enemies. So the types of things when I think about what I wouldn't wish on my worst enemies, I've had some pretty severe anxiety attacks, and sometimes at the peak of those, I was like, that shit sucked. I don't know if I'd wish that on anybody. But meanwhile, yes, I would wish for trauma of just again having to deal with the loss of maybe one child, and again the other one just being horribly handicapped. Yeah, stuff like that. One day when I was thinking about curses, trying to be creative, I thought a good one would be that they could no longer get in any type of mode of transportation. Anytime they would, it wouldn't work. So that specifically electronics, so cars wouldn't work, airplanes wouldn't work, taxis wouldn't work. They'd really have to resort to horse-drawn buggies. But again, in order to obtain a horse, you'd have to have someone bring one to you, or again, you would have to walk to get the horse. That's a good one. Or an eternal itch in your eye, which would eventually just result in them, taking their eye out. But those are fun. What kind of stuff would you wish, or what kind of stuff would you not wish on your worst enemy?